I'm not your average coin dealer, but I am a collector, and I started from nothing. Very poor background. So, you know, I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth, but in my field, I've risen to the top of it. I'm a past president of the American Numismatic Association, which is the largest coin organization in the world, sponsored by Congress, chartered by Congress in 1912. I've testified in front of the United States Senate. So I've been doing this a long time. I've taught more federal employees and representatives like Secret Service, FBI, IRS, Treasury agents, Homeland Security, Border Patrol, the U.S. Mint, to tell counterfeit coins. And I started from nothing. Anybody can do it.
Thank you for joining us. We want to open this up to comments. If you have any coins that you're wondering about, you're wondering what to do with, you're wondering about how to invest in coins, invest in gold, we have one of the foremost experts really in the world here on the program today. I'm really honored to have Bob. Thank you so much for joining me.
Nice to be here, Richard.
Yeah, Bob Campbell. I've known you, quite a long time, pretty much since the beginning of Utah Stories. And just an incredible story. I got to plug our Faces of Utah magazine. Bob is one of the stories in our inaugural edition of Faces of Utah. And Bob is one of these incredible entrepreneur stories with all the other amazing stories we have in here. Ken Sanders, but Bob's here with his son. And you got to read the story. It's really well done.
And there's a picture of that 43 copper in there.
Oh, yeah. So we're going to talk about this coin right here. And I can't show the exact coin that Bob's got, but I want to show you it on my screen. If you happen to find some pennies, maybe in your couch or in your walls or wherever, do not toss them out. Do not put them among your change, because if they say this little tiny S right here, you see how it says 1943 S? Check out the price. I'm going to try to move my screen over so you can actually see that I'm not joking when I say this coin is worth $500,000. Shoot, I don't think I can show it. $504,000 was the last time this coin was sold in 2020. And so we're going to talk about rare coins, and I'm super excited to have you on because I think coins are one of these things where a lot of people think, well, you really have to know what you're doing, and there's a lot of counterfeit out there. There's a lot of ways you can get deceived. What is the proper way to get involved in, let's say, first of all, coin collecting just for the fun of it, and then we'll get into investing a little bit later on. But how do you get into coin collecting?
The best way is to buy the book before you buy the coin. So buy a book, a common one that everybody uses. We call it the Coin Collecting Bible, and that's called the Red Book is its nickname, but it's a guide book to the United States coins. All the coin shops around the country sell them, and you can buy it at Barnes & Noble too, so it's in every bookstore. It's easy to find.
And that's the Bible of coin collecting.
It is.
You just have to have that book.
I'm one of the contributors to there and have been for decades.
That's awesome. And so when you look at like the story of Mark Hoffman, and if you're not familiar, that guy became a master forger. Mm-hmm. He really fooled a lot of the foremost experts in coins and coin collecting.
Mm-hmm. And he started with coins.
Yeah, and he started with coins, and he just how did he do such an effective job in fooling so many people?
Well, with coins, he came up with an ingenious method of actually building a mint mark on a coin, and the date and the mint mark determined the rarity, how many were minted, and then he was able to fool people first at the United States government, and then fool other people. But he actually did what we call an electroplating process of the mint, where he masked off the coin, and through a combination of copper plating, nickel plating, copper plating, nickel plating, and then when he's got done building this up by the atom on the coin, it looks like the mint mark actually belongs to it, so it's not been added, it's not been taken away. He's literally grown it on there. Wow. And that's how he got started. And he was just a teenager when he figured out how to do this. He's a very smart person, but in the wrong way. You know, he's always been a con man his whole life, and he loves to fool people.
Yeah, in a maniacal, deceitful way.
In the case of where he's doing documents, which is where he's most notably known for, and of course he killed a couple of people in Salt Lake. There's been, I think, 7 books written about him, 3 things or documentaries on him, and there's a real life movie that will be eventually made of him and everything. So in Utah, and if you delved in manuscripts or books, he would be well known, and he's well known in the coin people too, because people find the story interesting, because he's not really famous, he's infamous. And that what makes it fine. Everybody likes to hear about somebody that's fooled the so-called top experts.
The process that he figured out at such a young age, electroplating.
Electroplating, I meant, Mark.
So, I mean, how, without like sophisticated equipment, and you're a teenage kid, how do you even begin to come across?
Probably read it in a book first.
Yeah,
you know,
just deep
it's just a matter of if you just look up or even Google search the electroplating process. And what he did was you mask off the coin so it only affects one area of the coin in this dielectric solution. You basically build it through the plating process, much like if you gold plated or silver plated, atom upon atom, but multiple layers on there, hundreds of thousands of layers.
Is it through melting or
no? It's just actually growing up.
Just growing.
Yeah.
God, that's crazy.
And that's how when he first sent it off to the the federal, mint, and is this a genuine coin? And they sent back, yes, it's a genuine coin, but they don't have anybody there that could really tell if a coin has been altered or a counterfeit coin, because
he went to them, the greatest authority in the nation first, and then he was able to fool the dealers.
Yeah, he was able to fool them, and then other people he fooled too. Back
to rare coins. So the thing that I find really, hard to wrap my head around is not only that, dealers have been fooled before. Obviously, that was a rare case where he first fooled the feds. But you look at this penny. Let's pull it up one more time on the screen. And just because, correct me if I'm wrong, if it has that S there.
Well, that's one of the reasons. But the main reason here in 1943 is because the government said they never made any of these. So it was in the middle of World War II, and they took the copper that was used to make cents as in production, and they needed it for the war effort. So they needed to make shell cases from it. So they came up with this idea in 1943 that they would make them out of steel, and then they zinc plated them, and they used them then. But people that own vending machines were very disappointed with them, because they found out that once that zinc coating is gone, they rust, especially in the East Coast and in the South where the humidity is high. So they didn't do it after that. In 44, when they started making sense again, they actually used shell casings. The big battleships, the shells that they use, and things like that. They would scoop them up and send them back to the mint and remelt them and make shell case cents, was what they called.
Wow. Yeah,
So these 1943s that exist, they exist right now. We think there's 21 of them known. And the first one is actually discovered in 1947 by some kids at school. Their coach, who was one of the teachers, of course, and was known coin collector, and they were talking about what the coins they were, in circulation, and these kids actually found a 1943, but instead of made out of steel, here it was copper. So they took it to their coach, and how could that be? And then that's when the first one was discovered. That's the first time the mint
the mint did not even know they existed.
Well, officially they didn't. So they say that it could have been produced accidentally. They were left in the bin, or they were in between the cracks of the bin, or in somewhere in the minting process where they were shook back into the regular production. Or what most of them were probably minted was by the midnight minter. This is employees of the mint that wanted to make an error coin and then try to sneak them out. It's pretty easy. You just have to swallow it and then recover it later, and you can guess how. But a lot of coins are made by the midnight minter.
And so those folks just got away with minting coins that they never thought
keep it quiet for years.
Wow.
Let the publicity.
And they hung on to them, and then later would sell them.
Clear up in 1959, I think, was the first time that they actually sold, because they actually confiscated them. They would send out the Treasury Department, and people would say they would have one, and They say, it never should have left the mint, so we're here to confiscate it. So it was never issued. So for years, no one said anything. People would, hey, I got something that the feds want. If I let it known out, they'll confiscate it from me. So there's a lot of rich history. And then there was advertisements in comic books and things like that when I was a kid. Guys are saying, I'll pay $5,000 for this copper 43, check for it. And it was even rumored that Henry Ford would give somebody a new car if they found one. So that's proven wrong now, but urban legend was there, and they would advertise it like that. Get a brand new Ford car, if you turn one of these 43 copper pennies in. And eventually they got out, and things have surfaced, and even just recently, just a couple of years ago, when somebody found one just in their change, that was left at home, and they didn't even know it was rare.
So the U.S. Mint, then, they think they have a handle on everything that's been minted, but actually they don't. Sometimes there's coins
official
that escape
records, and then there's the truth.
Well,
I don't know if we would count our government for knowing everything. There's always the official record.
Or being accurate.
And there's a scuttlebutt that is more closely aligned with the truth.
So you mentioned that they made the pennies out of steel. I just found one online. We could show this.
Yeah,
we
sell them for as low as 8 cents.
And this one's $1,700. What makes this
is
one?
Another air.
Oh, it's an air coin.
Yeah, it's a slight air. Lincoln wheat penny, L on rim, a struck air on B. I don't know what that actually means without looking at it more carefully.
Huh.
But people don't realize too that the U.S. Mint makes a lot of coins for other countries. Sometimes they get these foreign planchets, which is a name for a blank. It's a French word, and they actually make them. So we get, in 1943, we get pennies struck on a dime planchet, so they 43 silver cent, but it's not as big as a regular cent. It's a dime planchet, so it's a little bit smaller. You got 19 millimeter versus 17 millimeter. Mm-hmm. And then you got the nickels struck on a steel planchet too. So I've owned several of these too over the past years, but the king of all airs, every air, not just in the United States, in the world, is a 1943 copper penny. And that's what we call it. Technically, they are bronze cents because they're mixed with copper and tin, but everybody knows them as a 43 copper penny. I own one.
Oh, you have one of these? Yeah. Wow. That's pretty cool. And so when you talk about Mormon Pioneer rare coins, what's the most rare coin in Pioneer? Well,
usually in coin form, as far as Mormon coins, it's the Mormon gold pieces that they started minting on December 12th, 1848. It's dated 1849. So they made these coins, these Mormon gold pieces, here in Salt Lake City, right by the Joseph Smith Memorial Building. Of course, it was the Hotel Utah, just on the east side. There was a one-story home that they had a basement in, and so they had 2 stories, and they used what we call a drop hammer press. And they took the gold from the California Gold Rush, because the Mormons were there when they discovered it.
And Sutter's Mill, yeah.
They're the ones that really should have the credit, not James Marshall. Those are made in September of 1849.
So this was 2
years. That's actually my coin right there.
Is it?
Yeah, if you can get a picture.
Let's see if it can
I paid
load.
$720,000 for it.
No kidding.
And then you got population reports. So the one that they're talking about there, there it is.
There we go.
That's the finest known of all the 20s. There's around 20 to 25 of them known. The rest of them all been melted down. The $10 is the rarest one, because there's only 14 of those known right now. Rest of those are melted down too.
It's 700 grand-ish.
Yes, I paid $720,000. I've been offered $1 million for it already.
Wow. So there's your retirement.
Well, if I needed it, but I don't want to sell it. I want to own it.
It looks like what is this thing on the top of the eye?
Oh, that's actually if you're a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, it's called a Phrygian cap, or a bishop's mitre. It goes from an ancient country called Phrygia, and it's where eastern Turkey is. And so as they were all the time, the Greeks were trying to conquer them, and all the time Romans did too. But these guys wore a little cap on their head as soldiers, so they identify each other on the battlefield. And they never were taken slaves. So every time a conquering army came, they fought for their homeland. They fought like madmen.
I knew nothing about that.
Roman generals say, do we have to go across land to get to the other side of mine? We just bring all our troops on ship and land on the other side. And Jesus was ordered up. We're the mightiest army in the world. He says, no, these guys, they'll never be enslaved. They want to be free.
And what does that have to do with the Mormon Church?
Brigham Young wanted to use these symbols they were seeking as they came across the plains as pioneers for religious freedom.
Oh, okay.
And that's what it was.
So
it was the associated freedom.
Just how they would
and we use the same thing in early coinage in America here. A cap on a pole to signify freedom. The French do it too in their revolution. And we still have coins that are in circulation like this. So, but it comes from that old ancient country. That's what it was. Now, Richard, you might not remember Spartacus, the movie with Kirk Douglas in it.
Oh, I remember
so
that.
He's a gladiator, but he's fighting to get his freedom. And he finally does it. And what he does, he puts a cap on, much like a French beret. That's to signify to other Romans, especially soldiers, that he's a freed slave. And he's won his freedom from being a gladiator. So it was a symbol. Nice. On the back side of it, you have the clasped hands, meaning strength and unity. And then, of course, the eye, the all-seeing eye of Jehovah. These were crudely made, but they made these 4 denominations in 1849, a $20, a $10, a $5, and a $2.50. And then they made in 1850 just a $5 denomination. And then they made a real interesting coin in 1860 with a lion and a beehive and an eagle. So there's 3 different types that you can collect, but there's 6 coins total. So this is the Cadillac of all Mormon coins. I have a complete set.
Do you have any idea how many were actually originally created when they came out with them?
Probably around 4,000 approximately of each denomination. That's what I've been able to determine from the dies that they struck them with. So they have what we call die wear. But Mormon gold pieces at the time, these coins weren't circulating. They were expensive. No one had any money. I mean, you spend a $5 gold piece, no one has change to give for it. So most of the time, these Mormon gold pieces were made, and then they were sent eastward. And it was very common for foreign gold, which was still legal tender in the U.S. until 1857. So there was a lot of Spanish gold in Utah here, and a lot of it in California. And eventually, it all worked its way back into the U.S. Mint, where it's melted down. But the gold from the Mormon gold pieces from the California Gold Rush, except the 1860. And that one has a neat story behind it that I think is urban legend, but that's dealing with the Lost Roads mines. So you're dealing with people on TV with a reality show like Mystery at Blind Frog Ranch.
Let's talk for a few moments about the history of the Lost Roads mine, because I got sucked down that rabbit hole. And I walk into Ken's shop, and 2 of his best-selling books of all time are written by Gail Rhodes and I believe another Rhodes, but it's like Secret Treasures, and there's a bunch of maps in there.
Oh yeah,
like you can use these maps to find the treasure, and it's just like X marks the spot. If you can find where that spot is, supposedly you'll find the gold. You get a lot of people coming into your shop looking for that Lost Roads coins,
and authors of different books have actually been in my shop, and I've sold them gold nuggets that I find them later in the books, saying they've been found up there. They were found in my shop, not up there. Same with Spanish silver bars and things like that. They'd buy gold bars, except they can't afford that.
Yeah, so there is Spanish gold, and there was trading of gold. I know there was a slave trade before the Mormon pioneers settled, and a lot of the the Paiutes were getting exploited by the Utes, who were the stronger tribe, and sold into Santa Fe, where the big slave trade was. But there was trade happening among white people and natives before the pioneers came.
There was trappers here too.
Yeah, was gold still a medium of exchange all the way back then in the?
Not really. Gold never meant much to the Indians at all. The local tribes. That's an idea that was foreign to them. The idea came with Cortez. In fact, as the Aztecs were being conquered as a nation, and their king is there, and Cortez is there with his army of 200 men, and of course he's bringing firearms for the first time they'd never seen, and they have captured people that indigenous that are slaves to them and interpreting to them, and he says, "Where's your gold?" And the guy says, "Well, that's over there in that building." And then as they run to that, the king says to his heir apparent, he says, "Thank goodness they didn't ask us for the jade," because to them jade was everything. It was life. Gold was just a metal they could manipulate and make things out of. It had value for that reason only, not because it's value. It's a perception of the world that gold is valuable.
Mm-hmm. And it's kind of an interesting perception because it's not actually, I mean, obviously we use it in some electronics and so there's some applications for it, but there's not a really strong, I mean, it's a soft metal, doesn't hold a point well.
It's very malleable, though. You can take an ounce of gold and make a wire that's more than a mile long.
I guess you can do a lot of gold foiling
and
stuff like that.
Well, you see the astronauts, they have a gold shield on their visors, and they can see through it. So gold, you can actually make it so thin that it becomes green in color, and you can read a newspaper through it.
Yeah,
it's so malleable.
That's crazy.
That's the neat thing about gold. Mm-hmm. And it's a perception of value.
Yeah.
Now, to me, Bitcoin is just a perception of value.
Mm-hmm.
Really, nothing's there.
But that's the same with our fiat currency. Right?
Same there, too. So it's what people think is valuable. If you think if we were in a survival situation, what would be the valuable? Well, the things that would keep you alive would be the most precious there. But so we're not in a survival type of situation.
Yeah, but when people have, say, excess money, and right now we're going through these inflationary times, you keep your money in a bank. That's one of the worst things you could do because you're just losing value. And at the rate of about 6-7% every year. Well,
that's with a CD that you have it for a time period. But if you're there having a savings account, it's a 1/4% that you're getting paid.
Yeah,
and I think they've just lowered it.
And if you include
1%,
inflation in that, you're losing money.
You're losing money, yeah.
So, what do you recommend to people who want to just protect the value of their currency by investing in gold? What are the do's and don'ts you would recommend?
Gold's a great investment. It has a tendency over time just to keep up with inflation. And today, gold's the highest it's ever been, 28.06. As I left my shop a few minutes ago. Wow. So it finally broke the 2,800 barrier, and it probably will break the $3,000 barrier if it keeps on going like it is. So gold is one of those things as a way to fight inflation. Of course, a lot of people believe in stocks is the way to go. Some other people might think bonds. Other people think real estate's the only thing worth having. Mm-hmm. And other people buy collectibles. So you have people that are in the bullion market that are buying gold, silver, platinum, palladium, rhodium. These are precious metals and that have value. Some of them are, related to, the space industry that we're in. Some of them are great conductors. Others are just great metals that they use. Some of it is used in jewelry too.
But we were talking before about when you hop on maybe KSL.com or Craigslist, you might find people who are selling gold.
Yep.
But you get a lot of these people who were victims of scams. Can you describe some of those situations?
Well, I can tell you unequivocally, I've never seen anybody get their true value for anything they find online, all over the internet, through an infomercial, on satellite TV, on TV, in any magazines. Anytime you're dealing with somebody that you can't have an eyeball conversation with, you're going to get taken advantage of. That's unequivocally. Always. Why would people send money to people they never met is beyond me. So you're going against everything that's just common sense. Why not go to somebody local that's been there forever? I've been 45 years at my shop. Mm-hmm. You don't stay in business for 45 years taking advantage of people. All those guys, they go and start a new company after 6 months because they're always running from their past needs. Mm-hmm. But there's too many people out there that fall for any kind of scam. Most of what we see in scams are people that are elderly abuse. People, as they get older, they think their sound mind and their judgment is actually impaired. It just happens with everybody that gets older. You and I will face it. Mm-hmm. I'm almost there now. So,
yeah,
that you need a handler.
Easier to just trust the Fox News and birch gold. You're never going to get your value out of buying birch gold because it's gold. It's gold plated, and they say it's full gold. Or what are they doing there?
Well, there's a lot of things they do. Gold plating. There's counterfeits on eBay. They say they're making a good job. In reality, they're doing a poor job. I've actually gone to the executives, and I teach the counterfeit and alteration detection class for the American Numismatic Association. So I'm an instructor with a degree in PhD in numismatics. So I've been doing this a long time. I've taught more federal employees and representatives like Secret Service, FBI, IRS, Treasury agents, Homeland Security, Border Patrol, the U.S. Mint, to tell counterfeit coins and how to make the difference and how to make the call. But I also do it for collectors and coin dealers throughout the United States. So how did I do this? I bought a book first, and I started reading about it. And then with a lot of experience, and then learning from other people also that came before me, we learned the skill about how to detect counterfeits. Mm-hmm. So I'm really good at it. Now, we have machines at my shop that will assist me, help me, but I don't need them. But they're great for other people that don't know, so you can put your trust in a machine.
Yeah,
instead of an individual.
Machine. I saw your daughter using it. It's like a
X-ray fluorescence.
Yeah, it's so cool. It's like a $15,000 machine. You just point
about $29,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
But it can just detect the percentage of actual gold in
it does, yeah.
In
anything that's
coin
metallic, yeah. And we use another machine that uses electrical resistance by shooting electricity to it to test how homogeneous it is, and it comes up with a reading that it has to fall in a certain parameter to be. The best test is actually something that Archimedes came up with. It's called a specific gravity test. Anybody can build them. Just Google search specific gravity. All you need is a scale, a beaker of water, usually distilled, some wire or some thread, and then it's just weighing it dry and weighing it wet. He actually discovered it, millenniums ago by the king coming to him, and he says, the royal jeweler, I think, is screwing me. He's taking advantage of me. How do I know that I'm getting the gold that I give him back? And Archimedes actually came up with a mathematical equation while he was floating or laying down in a bathtub. That's a great story.
Yeah, show the screen for a sec. I'll show you what you need to do it.
Yeah.
So you
don't need to buy any fancy machines.
Well, it says you need a precision scale, a container filled with water, a string of wire to hold the gold, a calculator. The accepted gravity of pure gold is 19.3 is the gravity of pure gold. So if you can measure that, then you'll know whether or not it's real. That's pretty awesome.
And even gold nuggets, even though they have quartz with them, we can actually measure how much gold is in there. Because we know the specific gravity of quartz and we know the specific gravity of gold.
So if people have bought gold online and they
you can
want
prove
to come,
it this way.
Well, could they come to you and you'll just do a test for them and
I can show them on a machine, or I can just
and then they can trade their
look at it.
Less valuable gold for more valuable gold if they want it.
Unfortunately, they'll realize they got scammed or taken advantage of. Yeah. They'll have to pout for a while and get over it. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of people out there that will scam you. In fact, I think as far as coin information online, most of it, almost all of it, is either misleading or totally false. Every time you look at a YouTube video, you're actually getting scammed because they want you to subscribe. And the more subscriptions they have or the more views they have, they can then gain the attention of advertisers because it's an interesting. So you get this picture and it's clickbait and say this coin is worth $50,000 and everybody wants to get rich quick. So they just look at the picture. They didn't even watch the video. And all of a sudden they go, like the most common one right now is a 1982D copper small date penny. And this is a transition year that we went from making coins mostly out of copper to then making it mostly out of zinc. And then they copper plate them now. So there's 2 of them that have been found in these transition coins from guys that have spent decades looking for them, that are in cash rooms at financial institutions. So they've looked through millions of coins. So is it possible you can find one? We got people every day calling us that they found one. One guy said he found 3 in 2 hours.
You could show it on the screen, Ishel. So here,
and so we constantly
1982, and it's worth $2,500.
Copper small date.
Yeah, small date.
Yeah, this is actually not a copper one, so it's 2.5 grams. So that's a copper-plated zinc.
So that's not the one you're talking about?
No, that one's actually just a copper one.
Okay.
I mean, that one's just actually a copper-plated zinc one, excuse me.
Is this it?
I don't know.
Can you see that?
I can't see it.
PC.
They're both circulated.
This
No.
one's $9,000.
No.
So if they
All these are people offering them. So this is a scam.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because
They're offering for $2,500. See, this is a Philadelphia because that doesn't have the demon mark, but a zinc small date.
Wow. So,
So
I mean, these people just really
Those
could
are all
take advantage.
scams there. They're out for you. Somebody that's stupid, and I mean stupid, to buy these.
And
See, that's
'cause
all scams.
That's this $10,000 or best offer. Because
Scam.
that's not even it.
No.
Wow. And people must be buying these because otherwise they wouldn't be for sale on
Well,
eBay.
You know
It's
the adage, a fool and his money is soon parted.
Fool and his money's what?
Soon parted.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know who said it. Confucius probably. Or somebody.
So that's the thing about this Faces magazine. The thing that I realized going into journalism is that so many people believe bigness is an authority. Just because you're big, you're a big business, you're a big entity, you're appearing on Fox News, you're there, everybody's heard of you, that somehow that's going to be a good investment, that's going to be a good store of wealth.
No.
But when it really comes down to it, you need to trust somebody who's local to not get ripped off. Because you can see and touch and talk about
it. Yeah,
it's like
and you know what? Most people can actually tell when somebody's telling the truth, although we seem to get all the people that can't tell the difference.
Yeah,
you can tell when somebody's telling you the truth.
Yeah,
and I run into people and I tell them, I says, you can't tell when somebody's telling the truth. When they're asking me, that I don't think that's what you think, but I know different, and they don't know how to tell. It's always get rich quick, something for nothing. It's usually people that involving drugs, wishful thinking, or mental illness, and that's what the internet's all about. It's when the saying goes, where I can't even remember it now, where the unknowing meet the uninformed.
Yeah, that's the intersection of
everybody thinks.
And what
the
is it about
internet's-
Utah that everybody seems to get duped all the time?
Well, that has to do a lot with the church here, and we're taught to trust everybody because we think, and I believe it too, that most people are telling you the truth. Man is basically good, so they're gullible because it's brought up in their faith and their lifestyle. But what did Ronald Reagan always say? Truth but verify. He used to
trust
say
but verify.
Trust but verify. So you can check it out.
And
There are a lot of good people that are in the coin business, but there's some scammers out there too.
You don't believe in Bitcoin? You don't
We
see
don't
that?
take Bitcoin as a medium of exchange.
You don't think it's going to
No.
become our next currency?
I don't know why anybody would want to deal in Bitcoin. It's already been hacked 4 times. It was just a few years ago that Bitcoin was controlled by 20 men. 17 of them were in China, communists.
Really?
Yeah. And all they did was trading between themselves to make things be manipulated.
So the best store of value, in your opinion, what is it? What are the
Well, at least
top
gold,
3?
silver, platinum, they're all physical. You can actually hold them. So with me, gold and silver, but I'm really not an investor myself in gold and silver. I have a lot of it because I deal in it. I know a lot about it, but I actually deal in collectibles, numismatics, which is a Latin word for money, person who studies money.
And
I'm a
you're,
professional numismatist.
and so you don't work with investors nearly as much as you do collectors.
Yeah.
And you have a lot of collector friends who
Yeah.
are really interesting Utahns who just
Oh, they do.
love doing it.
This happens all the time to us. Somebody comes in and says, I got $5,000 to spend. Tell me the best coin to buy. And he says, well, it's not even a coin. Here's a $17 book. This is the best buy. So buy this. Buy the book before the coin. Because investors in my business get spanked. Because unless you learn something first, you're going to get taken advantage of. But if you know something going in it, know the history, the markets, how collectors work, and the organizations that help promote it, things like that, you'll do great. But whenever I buy a coin, and that's where I put my money in rare coins, I have a multi-million-dollar collection because of it. But the investment part of it is only a secondary thing in my head. Main reason why is I wanted it.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to save it and buy it.
You wanted the historical and artistic value.
Now, I have coins that made incredible money, like this 1943 penny that we started with, you know. When I first bought it 35 years ago, I paid $20,000 from another coin dealer for it. And the most I ever been offered for it is $700,000. So people, and my wife too, she says, why didn't you sell it? I says, is there anything that you need that you haven't gotten? And there's things that you want. You have to separate needs from wants. But to me, all I thought was, oh, great, I'll sell it, and 42% of it I'll give to the government. That doesn't sound like a very good deal.
That's the going tax rate on.
It was on this in my taxable state. Yeah.
Wow. That's not a good deal.
That's the amount of money I would have had to pay.
Yeah.
You know?
And, well, it's not. That's a penny.
And
you definitely
giving money to the
lose.
federal government, I give a lot, but I hate to, because when I look and see how they manage the federal government, the extreme waste and things they do, that just makes me furious.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to see our government in action. That means 7 guys standing around a hole. 1 guy's in the hole. The other 6 are just looking down at him, but they're all being paid the same kind of money. So,
yeah,
if you can't see abuse, maybe this time Trump coming around, Elon Musk, hardworking individual, can get rid of some of the government waste.
Well, I think if you get back to first principles, like he's done with his other companies, I don't see how you can complain about what he's going to be doing.
Yeah.
Because the principles, the primary principles of the government should be providing services, not just hiring endless numbers of administrators who
so they
take
can be
up
on the
resources.
payroll. Yeah.
Yeah.
The crazy thing is, and everybody's heard these things about 30% of the taxpayers pay for the other 70%, but there's other more intricate type of predictions and what's actually happening right now. The other 70% could actually be paid by the 1% who pay their taxes.
That's right. I've heard that.
And
too.
the 1% can pay for the 30%.
Well, we'll show this penny one more time before we leave. This is this isn't it.
That's a Philadelphia.
I pulled up the wrong one again.
Yeah.
God, it's really hard to find online. But if you see the little S and it says 1943.
Actually, the Denver minted one is worth more. When it first was found, it was sold for around $250,000. Then it sold for around $800,000, and the last time it sold is $1.9 million.
That's crazy.
Because there's only been one of those found so far. So there's one of the Denver mint, 6 of the San Francisco mint, and the rest of them are Philadelphia mints. And actually, if you understand coins and the productions and minting processes, see, the mint in Philadelphia is the mother mint. And the San Francisco Mint, Denver Mint, and other mints are just branches of the Philadelphia Mint.
Got it.
They don't make anywhere near the mintage that the Philadelphia can make because it's the mother mint.
All right. We'll check under your couch cushions, folks, for the 1943S. And then
or a 43 copper penny.
Or the 43.
They're all worth 6 figures and above.
Yeah, bring it to Bob or learn about.
You can buy one on Etsy, a Chinese copy. I think it goes around $6. We see them all the time.
Yeah.
Recently, I saw 1948 that somebody's, tooled the 8 to make it look like a 3. So they've tooled off part. So we get all kinds. And I've seen just other counterfeits, like I mentioned earlier. I helped West Valley Police Department on a fraud case, on a con case, where some lady bought one for $25,000,
Wow.
and he took her money and, was caught with the services that I provided to the West Valley Police. Good people.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming on, Bob.
My pleasure.
Yeah, really appreciate it. Yeah, and check out Bob's amazing coin shop. I love going there because it's like a museum. You can just
Except everything's for sale.
Yeah, except everything's for sale in it. But it's
Yeah.
like
What's the name of it?
All about coins.
Sorry.
Yeah, right on 2100 South above Highland Drive. You can park behind Sterling Furniture.
Or park on just east of me on a side street.
Yeah.
It's hard parking there, but people come.
What's the best day to come? You're super busy on Saturdays.
Saturdays is a madhouse.
You got like 14 people working there on Saturdays.
Yesterday, Wednesday, it was a madhouse,
Maybe Tuesdays or I don't know. It's
the quietest day is probably Thursday.
okay. Go on a Thursday.
But we had a Thursday yesterday that was shoulder to shoulder in our room.
Wow.
It's
the faces. Everybody's
yeah.
learning about you in
Yeah,
faces.
Yeah, that was a great article and such a nice magazine.
Yeah.
What a professional job you did there.
Well, thanks a lot. I'm going to plug it right now. So we're working on ongoing investigations and to both promote the best of local Utah and to promote our ongoing journalism and investigations. You can become a member of Utah Stories at utahstories.com, and for $5 a month, we'll send you faces every single quarter. You can learn about leadership from Kyle Whittingham. You can learn about the best of local Utah businesses and businesses that were started by normal people like you and me and like Bob, and people who just had a passion for what they wanted to do and turn their passion into their job and then their career and then their business. And it's just was super fun to put together. It took us 16 months to get this inaugural issue off the ground, and we want to keep producing these, and we want to keep working on our journalism, which we're going to talk more about that, our investigation into the homeless industrial complex, who is getting rich off the homeless remaining poor. It'll be shocking and surprising, and why the people at the top do not want to answer our questions. I think really with enough membership support, we can put enough fire under their feet so they have to answer our questions. So I'll be talking about that ongoing every single week on this program. With that, thumbs up this video, share it with a friend, share this all this great wisdom and advice that Bob has with your friends who are interested in learning more about coin collecting, gold, where you store value wealth. I think it's a good suggestion to share this with friends. And follow us on Instagram, follow us on YouTube. I think that's about it. You have places people can follow you, Bob? I know you have
Yes,
an Instagram.
I have a website, but it's really just we actually don't sell online.
Yeah, it's allaboutcoins.com.
Yeah, allaboutcoins.com.
Awesome.
And the craziest story, if I can say one last thing.
Sure.
My mother was an immigrant, and my father passed away before I was 5. She raised 4 children. She could barely speak English. So I came from a very poor background. So, I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth, but in my field, I've risen to the top of it. I'm a past president of the American Numismatic Association, which is the largest coin organization in the world, sponsored by Congress, chartered by Congress in 1912. I've testified in front of the United States Senate. I'm not your average coin dealer, but I am a collector, and I started from nothing.
It's pretty awesome.
So anybody can do it.
Yeah.
You just have to.
But remember, you get
you
rich
just have to be
slowly
passionate about what
and
you
with
do.
knowledge and education, rather than get quick. Most people don't want to hear that.
And I
but
did
that's
it
the
all
truth.
without a smartphone.
Yeah. Well, good advice. All right. We will see you next time. Thanks for watching.